Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Friday, October 4th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the NFL slate for this weekend, picked all the games here. Today, in this segment, we're going to do the same thing for college football. Obviously, not all of them, but the 14 biggest games from tonight and this weekend that I picked out. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it, or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message pops up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday, October 4th. But like I was saying, finishing off our show today, talking all about college football. Week 6 is upon us already, nearly halfway through the college football season. Kind of insane to think at. We have two number 25 teams this week. Interesting thing, doesn't happen all that often. We're going to start off with one of those as Syracuse travels to Las Vegas to take on UNLV, one of the top group of 5 contenders this year. New quarterback for UNLV comes in, dominates after taking over from Matthew Sluka. Syracuse, a team that burst onto the scene last year. Very, very good Syracuse team. This should be a very good game. UNLV favored by 6.5 points. This is going to be a crapshoot, but I am leaning towards the side of UNLV in this one. What they showed me last week with new quarterback, their ability to still run the ball while also being able to throw it, which they hadn't shown all season long, about a 50% completion percentage from Matthew Sluka. Syracuse's defense is solid. They lost a game that they probably should have won to Stanford earlier this year, and UNLV much better than Stanford. This is going to be a good game, though. Best game on tonight. I have UNLV winning 31-28. Turning our attention to Saturday's slate, probably the best game, in my opinion, takes place between two unranked teams in the Big Ten. As Rutgers travels to Nebraska to take on those Cornhuskers, the undefeated Rutgers Scarlet Knights traveling to Nebraska, 6.5-point favorites are the home team. Again, this is going to be a good team. It's going to be a classic battle of offense versus defense. Can the Rutgers defense shut down Dylan Raiola enough for their offense, which has been fine, not great, but fine, to win them a game? I don't think it's quite going to be enough. I think it's going to be a very close game. But still, I think Nebraska is going to pull off a huge win, keep their season alive. This doesn't eliminate Rutgers, but it definitely does put a damper on things. If they win, I think they're in the top 25 next week, as Nebraska wins 28-23. Then we get our first and only ranked versus ranked matchup of the week, as number 9 Missouri travels to the other number 25, Texas A&M. A&M is a 2.5-point favorite. I don't like this A&M team. Straight up, I don't like this A&M team. I don't think they have the offensive juice. The defense is good, but it's not the elite defense that we were expecting earlier on this season. They almost lose a game to Arkansas last week. Missouri should handle them, but Missouri's played a lot of close games against not great competition, so maybe this one turns into a good game. I still think Missouri's a better team than A&M. Like I said, I don't like this A&M team at all. I think Missouri wins 33-25. SMU traveling to number 22, Louisville. Louisville 6.5-point favorites in this one. Louisville coming off of a brutal loss to Notre Dame, one that really could have skyrocketed their chances in a college football playoff scenario. I like this Louisville team a lot. Their defense needs some work, and SMU has been on the rise. I think this truly is an upset alert kind of game. I think it could go either way. SMU showing a lot of strides in its first year in the ACC. Massive matchup for both of these teams. I think Louisville is just a better team offensively, and I think that's going to be the difference. Louisville wins a close one, 28-31. Then we're going to get an ugly game as Boston College travels to Virginia to take on the Cavaliers. Virginia favored by 1 in a pick'em here. Boston College, I've been impressed by what they've been able to do on the ground. Virginia, not a team that I'm seeing any really great stuff out of their offense or defense. They were able to shut down a good Coastal Carolina offense, a good group of 5 offense, but this isn't a Virginia team that I can believe in. I like Boston College just that little much more. I think Boston College gets the big road victory 22-21. Then we get a Pitt team, undefeated Pitt team, favored by 2.5, traveling to a reeling North Carolina, losing big to JMU 2 weeks ago. A 20-point comeback victory on their heads as Duke comes back to keep their season undefeated. Last week, this is a must-win for North Carolina if they want any kind of respect this season. Pitt has been a team that's had a lot of comebacks, a lot of close games, and I think this game is going to be very close. I think at home, North Carolina is going to be able to pull this one out. They need this one. And when I say I need this one, they might need this win more than any other team in the country needs a win this week. I think it's going to push North Carolina just that much over the top. They win 28-27. Iowa takes on Ohio State, the number 3 ranked team in the nation. Ohio State's first real test. Iowa isn't the biggest test. Their offense is fine, better than it has been in past years. Their defense isn't as good as it's been in past years. I think this Ohio State team is in a position to do something special this year. I think they dominate in this one, but it's the first real chance we see to see Ohio State all season long. They've played a bunch of cupcakes. You could say Michigan State was fine, but I don't really think Michigan State amounts to much. Again, I need to see it one more time. I think they'll do it. I think they win 41-17. And then one that I think could really be an upset. I'm not bold enough to pick it, but Ole Miss travels to South Carolina. A little bit of Beamer ball here for you. Ole Miss favored by 8.5. Anything can happen down there in South Carolina. You enter that stadium, it's just a whole nother dimension of crazy for you. I think we saw it almost happen to LSU, and I think LSU is on par with this Ole Miss team. LSU escaped with a victory, and I think this game is going to go very much the same way. Ole Miss needs a win in the worst way after getting punched in the mouth at Kentucky. I need to see some grit out of this team, and they're going to need to show some grit to win this one. I think they do it, but it's not going to be pretty. 36-33, Ole Miss. We have Virginia Tech traveling to Stanford, favored by 8 points in this one. Virginia Tech coming off of a brutal loss. 2 straight brutal losses, really, to Rutgers and then to Miami. They showed me a lot against Miami, though. That's the kind of Virginia Tech team that was expected early in the season, when we were in the preseason, before they lost a couple of non-conference games. In conference, this is a dangerous team. They've always been good in conference. Virginia Tech, I think, wins this one 27-21. Then we have West Virginia traveling to formerly ranked Oklahoma State. West Virginia and Oklahoma State, both 2 really good teams. Oklahoma State's offense has been very inconsistent, but West Virginia's defense has been nowhere near as good as you need it to be to take on an offense that could explode at any time in Oklahoma State. West Virginia's offense is good enough to keep pace for a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be good enough in the long term. Oklahoma State wins 35-28. Then we get what was supposed to be maybe game of the week here, as number 15 Clemson travels to Florida State, but Florida State's been abysmal. Florida State's been awful. Maybe we get a rare chance, an off chance, that Florida State clicks this week and finally puts it all together, but I'm willing to bet a lot of money that is not going to happen this week. Clemson destroys Florida State 40-20. Tennessee, number 4 in the nation, travels to Arkansas. Arkansas, again, kind of like South Carolina, loves to keep it crazy. That game is going to be a mess. I think Tennessee is going to be a little more immune to Arkansas's crazy than some of these other SEC and Big 12 teams that Arkansas has taken on recently. This is a big game for Arkansas, though. If they can get this win, I think it saves their coach's job. I think Tennessee still wins this one in a slightly closer game than a lot of people think. Tennessee 31, Arkansas 20. Then we get a game that I'm puzzled by, honestly. I don't know how Washington is favored against Michigan in this one. Michigan, well, I don't think they're the 10th best team in the nation. I definitely don't think they're that good. Traveling to Washington, I know kind of cross country there, but Washington has lost a bunch of games in a row, including one to Rutgers, and I don't think Rutgers is a team that would be favored against Michigan at any point. I think this is kind of national championship hype here. Michigan should win this game. It just depends on if, their run game can continue to do what they've been able to do the last couple weeks, and I don't see why that would change. Rutgers ran all over them. Michigan wins 24-20. And finally, the game day game. Number 8 Miami, a team that almost loses to Virginia Tech on a near Hail Mary, travels to Cal to take on the Cal Bears. This is going to be a good game. Cal's a good team. They're a fun environment. Miami has to travel cross country. That's going to be the biggest factor. Can Miami stay playing mistake-free? Can Cam Ward continue to play mistake-free football after traveling cross country? And that's going to be the big question to ask. I think this Miami team is good enough to do it. I don't think this Cal team is anything particularly special, but they won a couple of games, so they do deserve a little bit of respect here in their first season in the Big Ten. Miami gets the victory, 31-20. But let me know if there's any games that I missed, any games you think I should cover. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of them, any of the games we went over as well. But thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Hope everybody enjoys their weekend. We'll be back on Monday to break down some MLB playoffs, to break down some football from over the weekend, and everything else that happens is in what I'm sure is to be a jam-packed weekend of sports. So tune in Monday for all of that and more, and I will see you then. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Let's go. I feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Tired of shit and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn it.